I call to order the May 1st, 2025 special meeting of the Board of Education of Hinsdale Township High School District 86. We are meeting in the District Administrative Center. The time is 5:31 p.m. Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Here.
Member James.
Here.
Member Akris.
Here.
Member Kartsunas. She's available by phone. Member Rahman. Member Walker.
Here.
Member Waters.
This meeting being recorded.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Member Rahman.
Here. Perfect time.
Please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me.
I'm going to dial on his phone her number. Yeah. Here it is.
5-1 and then
The board will now hear audience, no, Devin, the board. The board will now hear audience comments for up to a total of 45 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the board. Board meetings are meetings of the board held in public, not, open forum town hall meetings. Board members will not engage the public during public comment. The board will keep this in mind as we conduct our meetings, allowing the public to provide input at the time allotted on the agenda to ensure that the multiple voices of the community inform board deliberations. When the board deliberates, it will be a time for the board to listen and learn from each other, taking the public input into consideration, not a time to re-engage with the public. The board will consistently abide by our formal processes relating to this issue so that all persons are treated fairly and equally. Our first speaker is Chase Barrett.
Are you gonna wait for the call? Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chase Barrett, and I'm a proud student of Hinsdale Central's music program. I'm here tonight with a deep concern for the future of our music program because with the staffing change at the meeting last month that I attended and spoke at is one of the many clear signals that our program is unfortunately being dismantled and defunded in favor of areas that are better understood and more widely celebrated. Despite our program's achievements, such as producing numerous all-state musicians and cultivating a culture of discipline, creativity, and teamwork, our successes have not been recognized in the same way as our athletes and participants of other competitive activities. When our sports teams and other activity groups win championships, they're celebrated with hallway parades, social media shout-outs, banners, and the full backing of this board. In contrast, when our musicians achieve high honors of equivalency, we receive little more than just a brief mention via blast email to most of our staff, while in contrast, most other schools do significantly more to give proper recognition. For example, no significant recognition was given to our all-state musicians at all this year or years in the past, except for, again, just a brief blast email to the staff that a lot of them just let sit in their inboxes with thousands of unread emails anyway. They were also ignored in a hallway parade that was meant to celebrate them along with our water polo and forensics teams, but in the end, everyone just mistook us for part of the forensics team. This, among many other instances of disparity in recognition, not only undervalues the hard work of our music students, as months of rigorous preparation is required to reach the state level for music, but it also hinders our ability to feed information on what our program does to incoming freshmen because it is important that we feed information to our freshmen to have them continue doing music as they transition into high school. This lack of recognition and advertisement has consequences such as contributing to a shrinking program from a deflation of incoming freshmen who participate in our music programs each year, which in turn affects everything from staffing decisions such as the one with Miss Grace Aducey last month to the willingness to this board to fund our program, which will cause a cyclic effect until our program essentially fades out. Again, another consequence is the undervalue of our hard work in the music program, as we are often overlooked by our peers, teachers, and administrators. We're not asking that you diminish the value of the accomplishments of others. We just want the students of our music department to receive the acknowledgement they deserve. I urge you members of the board to realign the priorities of this district with those of districts that better value arts education. A well-rounded education must balance activities, academics, sports, and the arts equally. I invite you to visit our music program sometime when you're available and understand why investing in the growth of our music program is investing in the holistic development of our student body. Recently, the Music Central music department held a meeting for constructive criticism to make the program more efficient and effective, but many of the needed changes that were addressed at that meeting cannot occur without the support of this board. Let's not let this program fade away the way it has been more recently, because at this rate, I promise that continued success, such as with our All-State musicians, will have its months numbered if we do. We just ask that you recognize our accomplishments, value our music educators, and preserve our education as an essential element of a balanced and humane school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dale Clubber.
Good evening. I'm Dale Clever. Been in Hinsdale for 34 years. I guess there's so many places I could start, but I'm going to start with the agenda. Because the agenda doesn't cite any exceptions to the Open Meetings Act. And therefore, if you go into a closed meeting right now, you'll be doing so unlawfully. You'll be violating the Open Meetings Act. The guidance from the Attorney General's office on OMA specifically states the public body must also publicly cite the specific exception in OMA that applies and authorizes the closure of the meeting. The exception may be identified by its statutory subsection or by reciting or paraphrasing the language of the exception. Now, if you look at your agenda, you'll have to tell me where there's any exception cited whatsoever. So right now, going into closed session, because you have not notified the public of what the exceptions you're relying on, going into this closed meeting is unlawful. And I'll remind two of you that the last time we were in this room, back in August 2022, under the Eric Held Majority Board, I also addressed the board and said, if you go into a meeting to discuss the goal setting for the superintendent, you are doing so illegally. Eric indicated that, they had some guidance from their attorney. I think Peggy James said, well, I'd like to see it. He never produced it at the meeting or subsequent to that. And it turns out that a humble lawyer who doesn't practice education law beat the board's law firm, and the Attorney General ruled that, in fact, I was correct. The meeting was unlawful. They indicated to the minute what portions of the meeting had been held unlawfully and closed. And as you know, this board didn't release all those. They basically thumbed their nose at the Attorney General. So I'm telling you right now that this meeting, if you go into this meeting, is illegal. Secondly, because I have such a short period of time here, I'm looking at the statement from the Board of Education that was put out on Friday. And I have so many questions about that. First of all, the board, I don't know who authorized it, I don't know who voted on it, I don't know who was in favor of it. It was certainly nothing discussed publicly. I assume you probably discussed it in closed. There's a tendency of this board historically to discuss things they shouldn't discuss in closed. I don't know if you did discuss it in closed. I don't know what exemption you're relying on. It's a statement you released publicly, so it shouldn't have been discussed in closed meetings. The first sentence, you contradict yourself. You say, we're unable to comment directly on the recent allegations. And then in the same sentence, you say, but we believe they're unfounded. Well, you did comment on that. And, why did you send this out to every student and every parent in the district? You talk about putting putting students first. You talk about in this document that we remain committed to the best interests of our students. And yet what this document did, it arrived unannounced in student email addresses, as my understanding, and parent email addresses understanding. There were lots of discussions like, what is this all about? What is this? It was on social media. Was this something having to do with sexting? Or, what is this? You drug all the students in District 86 into a matter that should be reserved for board discussion. There's no reason that a ninth grader needs to hear about this. So that, frankly, is a colossally bad judgment. In terms of the propriety of this, you say the allegations are unfounded, and yet they're documented. The letter, the litigation hold letter was produced. The allegations from the Leventhal's lawyers, I don't remember the exact time frame, those are all on paper and documented. This board has done nothing to refute any of those. We just say it's unfounded, and then we send it out to all the students who have no idea what it even relates to. You used the Leventhal child to be a pawn to fire Tammy Prentice. And I advise many of you that you had other grounds to do it, because her extension by the held board was unlawful. The board did not certify that she had met her performance goals before they gave her a raise and extended her contract. You cannot do that under Illinois law. But apparently this board decided it was more expedient to use the improper and unlawful disclosure of student records by Tammy Prentice. That was a better way to do it. You didn't have to do that, but you have not refuted anything that the Leventhals have had to say. So, this board likes to do things kind of behind the scenes. We've had massive amounts of transparency violations, and I don't have time to detail all those. This is open up. If you think the Leventhals allegations are unfounded, tell the public why you think that. Don't just cram it into somebody's email by, students, teachers, administrators. Frankly, you're coming close to calling the Leventhals liars. You probably don't meet the legal test for defamation, but everybody knows who you're talking about, and you're basically saying their allegations are unfounded. That's not quite defamatory as a legal action, but it's getting close. And then the other thing that I think is particularly offensive to me is you use taxpayer-funded infrastructure. You press a button and you can communicate to all students, all parents, all teachers, and everyone who's subscribed to D86 emails. And you're giving them your particular point of view in a political issue, in a dispute. And frankly, I don't think you should be doing that with taxpayer-funded infrastructure. Let the schools run, let the superintendents, let the principals use the emails to the students. I don't think the board has to get involved in that. And frankly, in terms of fairness, we have something that used to have called the Fairness Doctrine, where if a broadcast media came out and gave their opinion on something, they had to let the other side give their opinion. That was law. I'm not suggesting that it's applicable here, but I am suggesting that the principles should apply. You've given a very one-sided thing, and you've used something that taxpayers have paid for to do it, to take to your side. And in fact, your allegation that their allegations are unfounded have absolutely no basis. You haven't said anything about it. Their allegations are far more founded than the board's claim that they're unfounded. So, this was colossally bad judgment, and I personally would like to know who authorized this. I didn't see any vote. I didn't see any board member vote on it. So where did this come from? And how was it decided? I'm sure I've overextended my 3 minutes. I could have a lot more to say on a lot of issues. I won't. I guess I will mention last thing. When I looked at, I'm an attorney. I've issued litigation hold letters. I've implemented litigation hold letters as a defense attorney. I've issued evidence preservation letters as a plaintiff's attorney. And I will tell you, I've done depositions and interrogatories, and the precision of the language is very, very important. When you're responding to interrogatories, you only answer the question and no more. And lawyers sweat every comma, every word meaning, every synonym. They know exactly what that language is, very, very precise. And I know Joe Perkowski, as you all know. I know he's a fine attorney, and I know that he had complete understanding when he issued that litigation hold letter, and there's even questions as to why that was necessary. Who was destroying any of the documents? I think your records retention policy probably said none of those documents were going to be destroyed anyway. So that's kind of interesting. But what's more interesting is when you use Leventhal as a search term, it captures other kids named Leventhal, other children of Dan and Debbie Leventhals. You cannot tell me for an instant that that wasn't intentional. Joe's a good lawyer. If a lawyer was that sloppy, he'd have to go back to law school. Joe knew exactly what he was doing. That was an intent to intimidate. And so with that, I could go on. I won't. Thank you for your time and attention. Very, very disturbing. And again, my position is you might as well fold up your laptops and call it a day, because this is an unlawful, illegal closed meeting if you go into it. Thank you.
And with that, I feel like it's appropriate for me to jump in, and actually you're not right. And the reason
And,
being
and,
is
and may I ask,
if you
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'm sorry, I'm Felicia
yeah.
Frazier, I'm one of the attorneys for the
Okay,
district.
okay.
I'm Olafson Murphy Frazier.
Okay, all right. I'll
and-
educate me.
Yeah, and so there are many times, what the misconception is that if people are going into executive session and they're not coming out to take action, that they can't go in. There are many times you won't even see an executive session on the agenda. And as long as when that body goes in and they state the reason that they are going into executive session, they can do that, as long as they are coming out and taking any action. So even if it's, there will be many times, and you can, since you're doing research some of the PAC opinions that tell you that if executive session is not on an agenda, but the board states when they're going in, why they have to go in, and they may say, hey, I gotta give you this update. I forgot to tell you this litigation matter, the last demand was $75,000. I just needed you to know that I'm going to court. And then you come back out and you continue with your agenda, as long as you're not taking action to approve that $75,000 settlement, you are okay.
And you can't take action in an
You cannot,
executive,
but
in
you
an
can go
executive
into
session.
executive session at any time, even if it's not on an agenda, as long as you state the reason you're going in.
And I haven't seen that yet. Where is it? Where's the reason? Where's the exception, the cited exception? Where is it?
You don't have to cite it on the agenda. You can cite
Where-
it when you're going in. We're not going
Wh-
in yet.
What's, okay, so what's the
Once we go
what's the
into
citation?
executives.
No, before you go
So
in.
what I'm gonna ask you is that can you please just not interrupt
Oh,
me?
I'm
Because
sorry, I'm
It's
sorry.
hard for the
Sure,
tape.
of
for
course.
the tape.
Yep, I
So
get it.
listen to both of us.
Yep.
So if when we go into executive session, as many times as I've been here, it's always been stated why the board is going into executive session before they go into executive session. We're not at that point in the meeting yet. So once we go into executive session, that reason will be cited, and the board isn't coming out and taking any action, and if they wanted to, I would tell them they couldn't, because there's no action
Right.
item on the agenda.
I think I understand what you're saying. I would say that most lawyers would probably tell you that, and you're a specialist in the field, I'm not, but best practices would be, and I know my wife has been on the 181 board for 10 years and been president several times. Best practices is to state your exceptions on the agenda. I'm not saying you have to do it, but you leave the public guessing if you don't do that. So I understand.
And I get that,
it-
and that's something that some boards do. Some boards will say, they will state the exceptions on there, and sometimes they won't.
Sure.
But as long as, like I said, as long as there's no action being taken.
Well, there can't be.
when they come out,
Yeah, when they come out, right.
correct. So, but every time you go in, yes, they know they've got a cite them, and we're gonna make sure, we'll do it, of course, tonight, when we get ready to go in executive session, so it'll be, noted for the public.
I would say, I understand your points. I would say that, when the reason or the need for executive session arises during a meeting, sure, cite your exceptions and go into meeting at that time. If it's known from the get-go, there's nothing else on the agenda except executive session. Best practices would be to disclose what the exceptions are, and I'll leave it at that.
Was there anybody else?
I don't think so. I don't know. You guys?
May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session for discussion under exception 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and 5 ILCS 122C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Waters, second Rahman. Is there any discussion? Deb, will you please call roll?
Member Greenspan.
Aye.
Member James.
Aye.
Member Akris.
Aye.
Member Kartsunis.
Can you, hold on, okay, we're going to close, are you aye or nay?
We're going into she wasn't,
No, she didn't.
oh, she heard. Okay.
No, she didn't, I just have to put it on, she did not off. Do you need to call her again?
So wait,
It's an aye.
Heather?
Yes.
We're going into closed, under 5 ILCS 122C2 and 5 ILCS 122C11.
Okay.
Okay?
We're doing roll call and your name just got called.
Aye.
Member Rahman.
Aye.
Member Walker.
Aye.
Member Waters.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The board will now adjourn to closed session. The board will not take action following the closed session as detailed on our agenda. Yeah, we see.
We're done.
Bye, Chase.
Thank you.
The time is 6:46 PM and the board now reconvenes the open session of the May 1st, 2025 special meeting. With no further discussion, the May 1st, 2025 special meeting is adjourned at 6:46. Thank you.